I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate. We think too much and feel too little. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness. Without these qualities, life will be violent. And all will be lost. All will be lost. Do not despair. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die. Dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. Will return to the people. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world to do away with greed. Now let us fight to free the world, to fulfill that promise. Let us all unite.
Salvation Nation radio show program. We are trying to get my guest today on the line, having a few difficulties with our Skype connection, so bear with us on that. I will see if I can do some improvising until we get on. Now, the subject today, I'll actually tell you about my guest today, because this promises to be a very, very interesting couple days that we're going to spend talking about the subject. Now, we've repeatedly talked about the concept of artificial persons. We've repeatedly told you that government does not acknowledge you as a living man, whether you're a female or a male. And this is so important because it, when we actually break that down, what that really means is that government considers you dead. It considers you a chattel. It does not grant upon you the wonderful, miraculous thing that is life. Again, it treats you as, if you will, an estate. It might be best to say that you are no different than in Roman times, where there was a very, very slight distinction between citizen and slave, kind of like today, where you can be basically put into jail and be made a slave, thanks to our illustrious 13th Amendment. So we're going to talk today about Sester Cuvée Act. We're going to talk about many different things that say that you're dead. When we say that government doesn't want to deal with you as a living man in court, yes, that's correct. It wants you dead. It sounds so funny. We never realize that when we sign a mortgage, we are signing what's called a dead pledge. In Mort, Maine, where there's so many different concepts on the concept of civil life and civil death. You see, it's not real life. It doesn't breathe. You can't touch it, taste it, smell it, or anything else. We're talking about something in the civil realm which is artificial, in other words, dead. So it's a very interesting concept. Again, still having problems connecting through Skype. Excuse me. So let me tell you about Bo. Bo actually does a radio show himself. He's connected with a few people out there that might be familiar, including Kirk Callenbach, Tammy Pepperman, and a few other folks that have been mutually trying to escape, not only escape the system, but actually do it in the correct way by acknowledging that God is their government, basically. God is their sovereign. And I can't stress enough that this is not a religious thing. It has nothing to do with trying to convert people to any religion at all. It just is the acknowledgement that there is a power higher than man. And it's interesting because all of the different from Alcoholics Anonymous to Masonry to all of these different secret societies, all require you to acknowledge a higher power. The only one that doesn't want you to do that is government. You ever notice that? Government does not want you to acknowledge a higher power than it, because it wants to be your God. It gives you money. It says, "In God we trust." So, still having some issues. I don't know what's going on. Good old Skype. Let me read you a little bit about Bo now. I want you to listen to this very carefully. Bo's real name is Kurt Martin, from the House of Alsop. He goes by Bo, or that is to say that this is his endearment, if you will. He started down this road of pursuing law, as so many, including myself, do, by looking for justice in the court system, using statutes and codes in an attempt to find remedies for the situation he found himself cast into. Again, all the statutes and all the codes which we believe are for us that really aren't. After hitting a brick wall, like so many of us do, he finally discovered what is called the, quote, public law. And for that matter, the cure for what was ailing him. Having sued Congress, now listen carefully, having sued Congress and won, Bo now spends his time writing orders and directing law as per the ecclesiastical. Remember, I've gone out of my way to show the ecclesiastical nature of law. Really interesting things we have to remember is that the word gospel actually translates to good news about a military victory. So the word gospel, good news about military victory. Remember, we are under martial law in this country. The power of law is military. The authority of law is ecclesiastical. But the power comes from the executive, from the heavy-handed military and police that we have. Bo has a radio show on Revolution Radio, which is freedomslips.com, along with his co-host Rocco, called The Bo and Rocco Show. As heard every Wednesday night, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. More information can be found on his website, ChooseYourSide.org, which is actually a pretty fantastic roller coaster ride in and of itself. ChooseYourSide.org. Its sister site, as people might have heard about, Miss Tammy Pepperman. That's TAMIPEPPERMAN.org, where one can find documents, training audios, videos, and archives of the shows that they do, as well as Bo Knows Entertainment, which is his YouTube channel. Bo Knows Entertainment. So again, choose your side. I highly recommend people go to that and check it out. I think we are still not able to connect. Can't be added until you accept your contact request. Well, I guess during the break we're going to have to figure out another way to connect here. So you'll have to bear with us. Like I said, promises to be a very, very interesting show. And I think the point here is to try to really get you to understand that we've been in the same system. That our forefathers have been in the same system since the days of Rome, and probably before, that ancient system of pledging that we talked about a few weeks ago. All right, folks, we'll be back. Stay with us. Bo Knows Entertainment.
With no shoes on their feet, how's the people living in the street? Oh, there's a solution.
neighbor. Welcome again to this neighborhood. I'd like to show you something. You know what this is? Well, maybe if I press this button. There are so many things to learn about in this world, and so many people who can help us learn. Did you ever grow anything in the garden of your mind? You can grow ideas in the garden of your mind. It's good to be curious about many things. You can think about things and make believe. All you have to do is think. You can think about things and make believe. All you have to do is think, and they'll grow.
All right, folks, welcome back. We are trying this out to see if this works here. Maybe the board can tell me if we have some good reception going on. All right. Well, welcome to the show, my friend. I don't know if I should call you Bo.
Well, Bo is what I'm endeared as by many. Obviously, my mom called me Kurt, but I kind of take the philosophy Jesus had, and I just go with, well, what would you call me? So,
all right. Well, I've thought about how to actually start this, and I guess the first thing I want to do right now, a lot of people are going through similar wake-up calls, changes in their lives, and coming to the realization that we've been coming to over the last 3 months on this station, understanding that the Bible is much, 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 much more than we ever could have possibly dreamed or thought it was, that it's a presentment or evidence of law, that God in and of itself is technically really only mentioned in the beginning of the Bible, and everything else is referring to the Lord God, or in other words, man acting as God on earth. And in that right, basically, man acting as God through the corporate ecclesiastical church has basically thrown everybody into a sense of chattelry or slavery called citizenship. Of course, that's changed over the years. Now, I guess the first question I have for you is to just ask you, what is your current, do you have a current status? Now, if I were to look at you and say, ask the question, are you a citizen? Are you a national? Do you have any such status? Because I'd like to start from where you are now and then go backwards in time to see how you got there, I guess is the best way to do this.
Well, I tend to stay away from the word status. I don't really like that word.
Is that because you don't use it as far as court documents?
Right, yeah, because we're only known by our works and action. So to say something is really meaningless, you have to evidence that. And it's just like, an infant doesn't know what it is. It's a lost vessel. But, what I do is just evidence, of, what I do by my works, and that's the evidence of be living, where the word believe comes from. So, if we're acting as an infant, we're lost at sea, we're evidence that we require protection, right? So status is kind of, I know what people mean by that, but I tend to stay away from that term.
All right. Well, are you a citizen or not a citizen?
Just a citizen.
Citizen of the United States, I should say.
Right. No, I'm a citizen of my house, which is the house of Allsop.
And how was that house created? And what is a house, for that matter?
Well, the walls are basically created by a constitution. So, let's see, and I'm struggling here with my computer still after the reboot, but the walls basically are created by a constitution, and my constitution is my fee schedule. And, the house consists of those that speak my word, or, they patronize the entire house. And, we're not represented. We're just known by our works.
All right. Well, so let me put it to you another way then. If I was a police officer of a municipal corporation, I was to come along to you and I was to say, hey, show me proof say you're driving along and show me proof of your driver's license, your permission to drive, your license to commit any illegal act, and identification, meaning state identification. What would be your response?
Well, I'd show my ordinance of estates. And, it basically is a public record recorded at the local county recorder's office, just to put it on the record. It's legislated, and it basically says that there was a mistaken identity, where the estate's known as Kurt Martin Alsop, as the United States in rem et al., it's United States lowercase, have been administered by your agency without lawful authority, when your corporation via commission has been granted letter of marque, business license, unlawfully authorizing you to be a privateer. So I got a notice also that goes with that, and all the parties that need to be in the know are in the know. I noticed everybody up, so nobody's operating under the assumption that I'm a United States citizen or a citizen of anything other than my house.
Now, again, when we say the word house, do we mean a physical location, or are we talking about something more on a spiritual level?
Well, I'd say it's probably it's a you could say spiritual level. It's a state of being. Okay. I mean, the word state was kind of perverted by the law merchants to mean a physical realm, but my state has to do with my state of being.
All right, so tell me more about you said your fee schedule is your constitution?
Right. Well, the Constitution of the United States is what they filled everybody up with, right? Because they got everybody to buy into, their concepts, basically, that goes back to letters patent, letters marque and reprisal. They're just letters written down to describe the object. And, I consist of the truth. That's what my Constitution basically consists of. It's a reality. We're dealing in reality here. You like to talk about how their legal creation is a fiction. Well, I'm dealing in reality.
In other words, you're alive. Is that what you're telling me?
Right. And
you're a living man?
Well, I don't like the word man because that goes back to, again, the law merchants kind of took that into their concepts too, and we'll read that in Black's Law here in a bit.
All right, sounds good. All right, folks, stay with us. We'll be back more on being alive as opposed to dead in the eyes of government. We'll be back.
narratives, quantitative easing, trade imbalances, recession, low GDP, nations close to collapsing, and subprime loans, foreclosed homes, and people's taxes spent to bail out too big to fail AAA banks again. Fear levels rising as the US crash seems imminent, having smashed the debt ceiling of 14 trillion. Despite protests and clashes in Athens streets, the IMF imposed structurally unjust programs in Greece, where in fact the term economy entered our language from the Greek oikonomia, meaning household management. Well, how are we managing? Theories abound, but in practice, does anyone actually know what the hell's even happening? Well, seems we've come to our global auditing, our financial day of reckoning. It's an interesting quandary. Have we invested too much in this enterprise to admit the solution might lie in its very demise?
All right, folks,
for our
welcome back.
real economy?
You're in the Corporation Nation now. I want to... we're talking about the concept of man. What government, what the courts, what your rulers see as a man, and what God sees as a man are two different things. Unfortunately, that's a very true statement. Declaration of Independence was actually a pretty nice document, I got to say. I don't find a lot of flaws with it. The problem is it has nothing to do with America. Nothing to do with anything. It was just a declaration. It was a reason to do other things. So what happened? Declaration comes along and says, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, guess what? That would be just fine, except then they came along with the corporate charter of the United States called the Corporation, or the Constitution. And what does it say in the Fifth Amendment? It says life, the very things that apparently our Creator, which is God, not man, supposed or presupposed certain unalienable rights as written in the Declaration of Independence. Constitution comes along and says, well, hey, yeah, these are rights granted by government, your right to life, liberty, and property, and here's how we can take that away. We, acting as God on earth, we, the government. See, government does some very interesting things when it actually talks about man. What government really does is declare man to be mere animal. Let's give you some examples. Oh, I love this stuff. Man or other animals. Chapter 7 of U.S. Code states very clearly, actually, and of course I must have lost it. Here it is. When in the Agriculture Code, when defining the word animal, here's what it says. It says the term animal means all vertebrate or invertebrate species, including but not limited to man and other mammals, birds, fish, and shellfish. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. How about Title 21 of U.S. Code, Section 321 under definitions? It says the term food means articles used for food or drink for man or other animals. Wait, what's going on here? What is this man or other animals things? What is the purpose, my friend, of taking this what of course the Bible granted onto man dominion over the lands? Dominion doesn't mean you can go out and just ruin everything. It means you're the caretaker of the land. When God gave man dominion, what business does government have then to come and say that man is just an animal? How important is it for man to be just an animal, is my question. Bo, do we have you on?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, if I may, I'd like to drop back just a little bit to the Declaration of Independence. I have an alternative view on that, in that right of the definition, independence means it's in a pending state, stemming from the Necessity by Act, lost at sea. So pending, that means you're not sure if they're alive or dead. So they're in a pending state, all sitting there ready to be administrated. So that might be something to think about in the etymology. When we go to the etymology online, dictionary, it says not opposite of. French independent is attested from circa 1600. Italian independent from 1590s. Noun meaning person not acting as part of a political party is from 1808. So there we have, basically a pending status that they've declared us to be in, and guess what? They appointed themselves as the administrators, didn't they?
All right. So what you're basically saying is, hey, we're a bunch of people here, and we are putting ourselves into a pending status. We're not declaring ourselves separate from anything. We're actually putting ourselves in a status pending to be administrated as, again, chattel, basically.
Right.
Chattel being property.
Yes.
So it's not such a holy and glorious document after all.
Perhaps not.
Yeah.
You need to look at these words very carefully. We have to realize, we are states of being before we are subjected by another.
Say that again?
We are states of beings before we're subjugated by another, like Congress.
Well, I was just going to look up the word independence because I do remember coming across that, and I don't know why that has not been something in my mind. You just reminded me, actually, of that. So I'm checking my dictionary, my big green monstrosity, for the word independence. A state of being not dependent. Complete exemption from control of the power or the power of others. As the independence of a supreme being, a state in which a person does not rely on others for subsistence, ability to support oneself. A state of mind in which a person acts without bias or influence from others, exemption from undue influence, self-direction. Independence of mind is an important qualification in a judge. It goes on to say that the Declaration of Independence, the solemn declaration of the Congress of the United States of America on the 4th of July, 1776, by which they formally renounced their subjection to the government of Great Britain. Well, now I remember seeing what you were just saying, that the word independent actually does not necessarily mean, it actually means you are in dependence of something else. I don't know where I saw that, but apparently it wasn't this dictionary.
Well, in just means within.
Right.
And dependence means pending. So we're in a pending state, and it puts them in the position that they need to administrate us.
So along comes the Constitution, which is the creating the corporate structure to administrate everything. Interesting.
Well, before that, we had the Articles of Confederation.
Sure.
And in Article 1, you see that the United States of America is a style, or in other words, a chain of events. Now, you jump down to Article 12, you can see where they pledged us for the debt back then.
Yes, I actually read that on the show not too long ago.
And these are the same people that wrote the Constitution.
Right. The same bloodline.
And a Constitution basically fills up the man. A Constitution is something to fill you up with, right?
Well, what do you mean by fill you up? Now, I read the definitions for that, for Constitution, and I say it's a debt contract. It's a contract of debt. Constitutors are debtors. So when you say fill you up, what do you mean?
Well, it's something that you're, consisting of, made up of. If you're buying these concepts, that means that basically you're accepting the idea that they took all those rights and things away from you in the first place and now have the ability somehow to sell them back to you by granting you such things as the First Amendment and the Second Amendment and so on. So in other words, for them to grant you these things, they first had to take them from you in the first place.
Well, they had to. It's hard to explain this to people, and I've tried before, and I don't know if I've succeeded. But one of the most important things was to make everybody equal. Tyranny cannot prosper unless everybody has equal rights, and that's goes against the grain of thinking in America. But unfortunately, equality is the first ingredient for the total tyranny and taking away of individual rights. We'll be back, folks. Stay with us. Bo Knows Entertainment. Difficult to carry out a conversation when you're talking about these things, because we really are talking about a foreign language, like we've discussed with the legal language, and trying to continuously avoid being attached in some name or status or other form of control. And so sometimes it is difficult to put into conversational words the things that are happening in the legal realm. Unfortunately, this is where we have to make a choice, and it's a hard choice, and that is to come over to the side of light, to the side of life, the side of good, the side of lawfulness and de jure-ness and all of that stuff, and to do so, you literally do have to learn a brand new language. You have to learn the true history in order to your true history, actually, in order to really learn how you got here in the first place, so that you can remedy that problem. Now, well, let's talk about death, because death is kind of a funny word when it comes to civil law. There was a case not too long ago about a guy who, he had a horrible case with his wife, his then ex-wife, where they were going through divorce proceedings. The court was going to just assign him so much and overburden him so much with child support and everything else that he just ended up, instead of going crazy and trying to actually work it, he just left the country. He went away, lost his name, was gone for something like 18 years, comes back wanting to reestablish his life now that his kids are all grown up. Of course, wants to see his kids and all that. Comes back, and he finds out that he's been declared dead. Now, it's one thing, of course, to say, hey, judge, I'm right. Okay, I understand. I can see why you'd think, something might have happened. I might have drowned. But the judge would not reverse the declaration of civil death. And that is the important way to understand that when you're talking about your estate or your citizenship, your artificial person, your straw man, you're not talking about something that has life. Because, again, government doesn't like to deal with things that are living. This is why we continuously say, remember that you are always alive. In every situation, you are always acting as a living, breathing, sentient being. The only way you can get trapped in government and its court system and its rules and laws is to be, of course, artificial, or in this case, dead. So, of course, the guy could never become his old person again. He had to start a new life with a new artificial, newly granted artificial name and person, basically. So it's a fascinating thing. You can literally be declared dead in the eyes of government, and yet be sitting there going, wait, I'm right here, I'm alive. Well, you see, the court can't really hear you. The court is not in position to hear you because you're not artificial. It's just a funky thing. So let's go back to 1666. The Sestre Act. I'd like you to give the history of that, why it was created, and what exactly it did to all of us sentient beings.
Well, essentially, the city burned, and they lost all the records, and they said, everybody's lost at sea until you come back and give us evidence that you're alive, and that was the 7-year presumption of death that they later codified in United States Code 38 USC 108. And so they're still operating on that same premise today, like this guy in that court case. He was he had a heck of a time trying to prove he was not civilly dead or not dead. You've probably read the definition of civil death on the air before, I would think. But
feel free to do it again. Yeah, this is a learning lesson. So absolutely.
Well, okay, from Black's First, and I like Black's First because it shows the intent. Some of the words aren't there, and you have to go to the later dictionaries, but I start there. And it says, that change in a person's legal and civil condition which deprives him of civic rights and juridical capacities and qualifications. I think it's actually pronounced judicial, but it's spelled Juridical. And qualifications as natural death extinguishes his natural condition. It follows as a consequence of being attained by treason or felony in English law, and anciently of entering a monastery or abjuring the realm. A person in this condition is said to be delivetur mortis, civilly dead or dead in law. So you've already abjured the realm, basically because you're seeking the self, like this guy in that court case.
Uh-huh.
And you solidify that when you ask somebody to represent you, like hiring an attorney. And you're thinking, maybe if you do this or that, or maybe if you get a license to be something, you'll be. And you're always seeking, never being. And all of these things are what evidences civil death. If you're evidencing you're lost at sea, civil death, the obligation of your government is to succeed your estate. In other words, take it over and hold it for you as your trustee. For you and for your heirs, or pronounced heirs, because you've evidenced that you're not there. You've abjured the realm.
So it's in dead hands. In other words, it's in dead hands, in a state of mortmain. Is that correct?
Yeah. Delivetur mortis means you're delivered to, being into death.
Well, let me read the definition of mortmain here. It says, in law, possession of lands or tenements in dead hands, or hands that cannot alienate. Alienation and the word alienate is also a very important word that I think we confuse a lot just because of the patriotic fervor gets in the way of understanding what these actual words mean. Of course, to allien something is to actually put a lien on to something. So possession of lands or tenements in dead hands. What does that mean, in dead hands?
In dead hands, that means or refers to the fictional government, mortmain.
So the dead hands actually refers to not your hands, but government hands?
Correct.
It really refers to the fact that the estate, the lands or tenements, are not in living hands. In other words, once you get into this death system, the mortgage being a dead pledge, a mortuum vadium. It's sort of hard to explain, isn't it? Because you're really saying that since there is no living man, and I use the word man, as in the natural sentient being sense, since there is nothing living claiming it, it falls into corporate or dead hands, so ecclesiastical or temporal, right?
Right. And, yeah, they're holding on to you. They've succeeded your estate, and they're holding on to it. Succession actually, it comes from, back to blacks first, in the civil law and in Louisiana, the fact of the transmission of the rights, estates, obligation, and charges of a deceased person to his heirs. And 2, the right by which the heir can take possession of the decedent's estate, the right of the heir to step into the place of the deceased.
I'm going to have you read that again when we go back from the break. We're going to be taking our long break right now, so we'll be back. Very interesting. Okay. Stay tuned.
Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel. Who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are men. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful. Let us use the power to make this life a wonderful adventure. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world to do away with greed. A world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Do not despair. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. Let us all unite.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. You're the Corporation Nation. You're on Republic Broadcasting. It is January 14th, 2014. My guest today goes by the name of Bo, or Bo Knows Entertainment. His name is Kurt Martin of the House of Alsop. And, of course, this is a way of writing your name that does not imply such status as citizenships and other types of things. You're actually creating your own family house. Let's see, Bo, you were in the middle of defining secession. But I want to actually define some other concepts here, because we're talking about dead, the word dead. And when we look up the word dead in the dictionary, the old legal dictionaries, we see, unfortunately I didn't write which one I copied this from. Death is actually defined very importantly in theology as perpetual separation from God and eternal torment, called the second death, Revelations 2:10, separation or alienation of the soul from God, a being under the dominion of sin and destitute of grace or divine life, called spiritual death. We know that we have passed from death to life because we love the brethren, is what it says. Civil death, when it goes to the civil concept of death or the legal death, is a separation of a man from civil society or from the enjoyment of civil rights, as by banishment, abjuration of the realm, entering into a monastery, etc., etc. Now, civil, of course, as we defined, I believe, I believe on Monday, in a manner of relating to government means civilly. So how do you relate to government? In a manner relating to government, order the rights or character of a member of the community. In a manner relating to private rights, not public rights, not natural rights, not God-given rights, opposed to criminality or criminally, as a process civilly commenced for the private satisfaction of a party injured. That's a private party. But really, to live civilly, to be civil, to live under civil law, to have civil rights, what is that really defined as? This is the most important thing that we can get across. It means to not live naturally, but only under law, as a man civilly dead. And when we're talking about here is the cessation of the acknowledgement of the sentient and the soul. Okay, when we are acting under civil law, we are not acting naturally. We are acting as dead dead things. We are things, not living sentient beings. Also, dead, the word dead, is applied to us, and I guess the best way to think of us, what government considers us, are little tiny corporations, little franchises. In fact, remember, citizenship or denizenship actually does mean to be enfranchised into the system, the civil system. In other words, dead. Here's how they define dead: unemployed, useless, or unprofitable. A man's faculties may lie dead, or his goods remain dead on his hands. So dead capital or dead stock is that which produces no profit. Dull, inactive is dead sale of commodities. Okay, so again, think of yourself as a stock or a commodity of government. Why do you think government keeps track of the word unemployment? Why do you think that is? Because its commodities are not producing for the main corporation. Okay, it's not looking at you as a man who might be, need help or something. No, all you are is a piece of chattel, a piece of stock, if you will, that is useless and unprofitable to the main corporation. That is how government sees you. You're impotent, unable to procreate is another way of looking at you as dead. In other words, you are not able to contribute more pledges into the system. In law, cut off from the rights of a citizen, deprived of power or enjoying the rights of property. But wait a minute, if we live in America and our rights of property are God-given, how could we possibly be deprived of that? Well, only if we act and contract in the civil law can this happen. Just like Bo was saying, these things can be taken with you. And the way you put it, Bo, was interesting. You said if you're searching for something in the system or through the legal system, then that's the sign that you are not acting as a living sentient being, correct?
Yeah, that's basically correct. I think we can clarify this a little further if we read the definition of hell out of Black's First. And that says, the name given to a place under the exchequer chamber where the king's debtors were confined. Okay? Now back to Article 12 of the Articles of Confederation. They threw us right in there, didn't they?
Do you have that in front of you, by the way?
Black's First?
No, the articles, the 12th article, because I did read that on the show, and I'm trying to remember it.
I can get it. Let's see. I go to Avalon is where I do a lot of my research, avalon.law.yale.edu. And Article 12, all bills of credit emitted, monies borrowed, and debts contracted or under the authority of Congress before the assembling of the United States in pursuance of the present Confederation shall be deemed and considered as a charge against the United States for payment and satisfaction whereof the said United States and the public faith are hereby solemnly pledged.
Pledged.
And then a couple other words to keep in mind here is confederacy actually means a criminal enterprise.
Yes, that's another word I looked up a long time ago. I forgot about that, actually. It is defined literally as a criminal enterprise.
Yeah, and, so they're not hiding what they are. Congress actually means with transgression. Con for with, and then gress is basically derived from the word transgression. And the definition of a pledged asset here, just going from Investopedia, an asset that is transferred to a lender for the purpose of securing debt. The lender of the debt maintains possession of the pledged asset but does not have ownership unless default occurs. And so it's really quite interesting that, they don't really hide what they are, but they don't exactly teach you this in their school system either.
No, they don't. And they certainly don't use legal dictionaries either, or law dictionaries.
And what they're loaning, what they actually are loaning to their credit system is debt, not lawful money.
Well, and they used to use the word fee and fee simple and those sort of things. And I was noticing that the mortgage, the definition of mortgage, to grant an estate in fee as security for money lent or contracted to be paid at a certain time. Welcome back. So interesting. I keep reading these definitions. I see here that a mortgagor, which is someone like you or me who makes a mortgage with a bank, it says he has rights and is liable to certain duties as such. He's a quasi-tenant. A tenant. A mortgagor is a tenant. And I think that's one of the most misunderstood concepts that we have in America is what does it mean to have a mortgage, to create a mortgage. It means the mortgagee is the owner, the mortgagor is a quasi-tenant, entitled to certain rights, but always subservient to, and it says the mortgager is owner of the land, but only between the mortgager and a third person. So not over the mortgagee. And mortgagee is actually the main holder. And, you hear that all the time. You hear, if you have a mortgage, you're a tenant. You don't really live in your house. But to see it in the legal dictionary, it's kind of nice to actually see. So what we have is to mortgage something, again, is to grant, or so the beneficent delivery from government of an estate in fee as security for money lent. Literally a dead pledge, the grant of an estate in fee as security for the payment of money. What the heck is fee? What does fee mean exactly? We've heard the terms fee simple, which are all basically left over from, in fact, when we look up the word feud means a fief or a fee. So that right there tells you, okay, well, we live in a feudal system if we are forced to participate in a fee or a loan. When we look at the word fee in English is a loan. The word fee or an estate in trust. What's going on here, man? We live in a feudal system?
Yeah, basically, a fee is it's a citizen of a fiefdom. the citizen of a fiefdom. If you go to the etymology online and read it carefully, it basically says that fief, possession, holding, domain, feudal duties, payment. The medieval Latin feudum, land or other property whose use is granted in return for service, widely said to be from Frankish, et cetera, and so on. But the whole thing, I wanted to go back a little bit on this mortgage thing. It gets worse, because as I was going through my foreclosure, I came across this thing called the Borrower's Covenant. And it can be in your mortgage, or it can be in your father's or your grandfather's mortgage. And in the Borrower's Covenant, it essentially pledges you and your heirs or assigns. That's how bad it is.
In other words, as a duty? It pledges them as a guarantee for payment?
Correct.
And that's in the typical mortgage contract that you get from a bank?
Well, it can be, like I said, it can be in yours or from your parents or from their parents.
Wow.
They've been doing this. Mine was found on my dad's mortgage contract from 1971. So, here they are. Going back, I know we're jumping around timelines a little bit, but back to the Declaration of Independence, they said they seceded from England. Well, what they actually did is seceded everyone's estates as Mortmain, and they're holding them in dependence, just like they wrote. Now,
Mortmain again, the possession of lands or tenements in dead hands or hands that cannot alienate, and it goes on to say that that's any corporation. Alienation in Mortmain is an alienation of lands or tenements to any corporation, sole aggregate, ecclesiastical or temporal, particularly to religious houses, by the which the estate becomes perpetually inherent in the corporation and inalienable. So, even when that declaration says that things are inalienable, it's really saying that it's not saying that. It's saying something else. It's saying that by being a member, a citizen, that you're giving everything to the almost like the community. You're giving up all of your property, and only when it's in Mortmain or when it's in dead hands, only when no man actually lays claim to it, only then is it unalienable, because it's now of the corporation or of the state. Am I saying that right?
Well, let's see. Inalienable, it says it's a lien to the Lord God. You're giving your body over to the Lord God. And if we read 1 Corinthians 6, you'll shed more light on that. It was what Jesus was saying to a congregation there in Corinth. But, yeah, these words, liberty, for example. Liberty is a franchise granted within honor.
Yes. We've tried to explain that concept along with freedom, where the word, dom is a dominion over the word free, and liberty, unfortunately, is, like you say. How did you word that?
Inalienable, or
liberty is a what?
A franchise, right? That goes back to the Charter of Forest and Chase from 1100 on. The glossary. If you go to the glossary, and I did a video on this too, you can look up, and it's probably the only one out there on liberty is a franchise.
Yeah.
But Forest and Chase is a very important charter to see what they were trying to say to us then. But as with all these charters and stuff, going back to the Gelnhausen Charter, they said, hey, you're just a bunch of dumb animals. You're going to forget about this in a little while anyways, so we'll write it down for you. But Yeah. I mean, if someone is depraved or bankrupt, they're not in honor. During the realm or being civilly dead, just says you're bankrupt or depraved, not in honor. And all this debt that we keep hearing about all the time is congressional debt.
Yeah.
And they keep dumping it back onto our backs, basically via the judge's oath under 28 U.S.C. 453, where you come in as, the negotiable instrument, and the judge performs his duties by throwing you under the bus to discharge their congressional bankruptcy.
So you're making an appearance, in other words, through surety as the financial instrument, basically.
Yeah, you're going ahead and saying that, I'm the negotiable instrument. Go ahead and, use me to offset that congressional bankruptcy. And that's what so many people don't get. They want to compel the judge's oath and compel their bond. But by doing that, they are just admitting to being the negotiable instrument. In other words, civil death.
Yeah. Literally not natural, not living. I'm still reading the definition of feudal and fiefdom or fief, and I see something I want to ask you about the military condition of military service. We'll be back, folks. Stay with us.
Hi, neighbor. Welcome again to this neighborhood. I'd like to show you something. You know what this is? Or maybe if I press this button. Imagine every person that you see is somewhat different from every other person in the world. Some can do some things, some can do others. Did you ever think of the many things you've learned to do? Many things you learned. Did you ever grow anything in the garden of your mind? You can grow ideas in the garden of your mind. It's good to be curious about many things. You can think about things and make believe.
So we're looking at these two words, feud and fief, feudal system and fiefdom, if you will, which is the same as fee, fief and fee. And feud are all basically kind of the same thing. Fief is defined as a fee or a feud, an estate held of a superior on condition of military service. And when I go to feud, a fief or a fee, the right which a vassal or tenant has to the lands. You hear that, folks? Vassal or tenant has to the lands or other immovable thing of his lord. Now, we talked about the difference between Lord and Lord God, the difference between God and Lord God being the vicar, the replacement of God on earth, man, in other words, trying to pretend to be God. So his Lord is actually man. To use the same and take profits thereof hereditarily, rendering to his superior such duties and services as belong to military tenure. I am seeing here, sir, a military theme here, and this draws me to think of our selective service and our draft, that in our feudal system we are also required to go to an absolutely pointless, ridiculous, and unlawful, unjust state of war through military tenure, military service. What's the difference?
Well, very little. They haven't had the draft, activated, that often in our history, but the way that they use fourth generation warfare and, make the people poverty-stricken, drives them to a military career in a lot of instances.
Yeah, but we are all registered. We have a registry of all citizens. Basically, once they reach 18, they go and they register for war in the selective service. So we're ready. All they have to do is call us, right? I mean, that is military tenure.
We're pretty much in the same boat since 1929. We've all been held. Means the citizens and military personnel have been held as prisoners of war under that 1929 Geneva Convention, and you can see it with the military officers and personnel under Article 21. And it basically, Congress is bankrupt, so they've been holding us essentially at Northern Holding Corporation. Well, it's called Northern Holdings and Trust back then, but they've been holding people, as sureties or, basically collateral for the debt since 1929. That was a big part of my court case, and in that I said that was unlawful on its face to hold human beings like that. So that was a big part of the outcome of this case, is that through the agreed entry with Northern Holding Corporation, we swapped the living human beings for the fictional entities such as attorneys, judges, corporations, etc.
Well, what is the Northern Holding Company?
They're a holding corporation. Let's see here. How to explain that? Well, a holding corporation, easiest definition probably to get to is on just Wiki or something. But they hold things as, a surety for debt. They're backing the.
So if I were to say what of mine are they holding, or what is it that they're holding that represents the fiction called Clint Richardson?
Well, they were actually holding the living being.
Are they holding the birth certificate?
Not the fiction at all. Okay. Now, definition of a holding company would be basically a parent corporation that owns enough voting stock. And let's see here, enough voting stock in another corporation to control its board of directors, and therefore controls its policies and management. Okay. So a citizen is a stock option. I think we're pretty clear on that, right? Mm-hmm. And, it's the same thing as a negotiable instrument.
Well, so what would we refer to? We're born, we're birthed into the, through the canal, we're birthed through the water, into the through the doctor, and we come into this world. What happens at that point? Now, what is just transpired in an admiralty or a maritime law situation? What the living being was born, and immediately it's transferred or put onto a piece of paper, a certificate. Is that what is being held?
Right. A bottomry bond is what, you're diagnosed as being born. You're injured upon birth. You're brought into law. That's what the word injure actually means, to bring into law.
Injure, two separate words, to injure. Yeah, it's fascinating. I love the language. But are you not talking about? Is it true that your mother actually abandoned you at birth through this process?
Well, when
you become an orphan,
she signs the birth certificate as the informant. She makes an assignment, and that's in fact what they put in the paper. It says A baby boy, A baby girl, and the word A out of Black's Law basically means a stock option. It says, see, under A in blacks, a hypothetical person, Blackacre, a deeds or Blackacre, okay, with, let's see, sureties or securities, the letter used in a newspaper stock transaction table to indicate that cash was paid during the year, in addition to regular dividends. Let's see, securities, a letter used in a newspaper mutual fund transaction table to indicate a yield that may include capital gains and losses as well as current interest. And it goes on, but, you know, that letter A announced in the newspaper is making that assignment right there. But it started with that mother being the informant on your birth certificate.
I don't know, what's the significance of the word informant?
Well, she's just creating the information for the...
She's making a testament? She's,
yeah.
To
the corporation.
A legal testament that her baby or that her manifest, that the property that just came out of her is... I don't know what the correct word would be. Abandoned.
Form.
What's that?
Yeah, the child is put in form, as in a fictional form.
Right. And then the state at that point goes and basically puts a birth announcement. Right. We have a birth announcement, which is actually if you will, a chance for someone to claim the property.
Right. Well, remember that definition of the word A, they mentioned the word Blackacre, which is very important. This is a hard thing to teach, but essentially it says, by definition out of blacks, it's a fictitious tract of land used in legal discourse, okay, to discuss real property issues. Now we go to the word issues, and
oops, I think we lost you there.
For the definition of issue?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, you cut out, or the music cut in. I don't know which one, but hold that thought. We'll define issue. Of course, we think of the word issues as, oh, there's an issue, but we're talking about issuing something, not that something is an issue. Oh, so it gets so crazy, these words, don't they? We'll be back, folks.
You want some more?
It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory. Empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water, like water. Water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Running water never goes stale, so you gotta just keep on flowing, so you gotta just keep on flowing. Under the sky, under the heaven, there is but one family. Do not believe in styles separate man. It's a process of continuing.
Your head is probably with all these new words and new understandings and new definitions of, again, being distinct from the conversational language that we're all used to, that's full of love and wonder. And we have to, unfortunately, learn this this hell that is the legal language. And we discover that it is the hell that is ruling us and not the heaven. Unfortunately, we are ruled by language. Please continue there, sir. And by the way, Bo, I'm assuming is going to be back with us tomorrow as well. Hopefully we can get the Skype connection fixed so that we can take some phone calls. As it is, we can't. The way the connection is made, I can't take phone calls today. But tomorrow, hopefully, we'll be able to do that. And you guys can ask some questions that I'm sure there's quite a few out there. Let's go back to the definition of issue. And how were you using that word, by the way? What was being issued?
The stock option, the birth announcement in the newspaper for the baby boy or baby girl.
Okay.
And yeah, in real law, descendants, it means descendants, all persons who have descended from a common ancestor.
So when I was born, I was issued from my mother. And if I have children, I will be issuing more descendants.
Right. Exactly.
And that's a very cold word. It's it's like issuing a check. It's like issuing a stock certificate, basically.
Yep, this is how they think. And, some people say, well, what do you even use their language for? Well, you have to understand what they're saying to you, don't you? And you have to understand how to talk to them so they understand you. And, yeah, basically, though, the baby is the issue. And, issues before the court, right?
Mm-hmm.
But another word to understand in all this.
Oh, darn it. Looks like we lost you again. I have a little connection issues with Bo's line. Start over there, Bo. I think I hear you back.
Okay, rats. All right.
So court issues. We got that. That's very interesting, actually.
Yeah, issues before the court.
Issues before the court.
You're putting your babies on the court.
Right.
And you bring issues before the court. So, yeah, there's this definition of the word blackacre, too, that I'm hoping to get out if I don't disconnect, but it is a fictitious tract of land used in legal discourse when to discuss real property issues. Real property issues. When another tract of land is needed in a hypothetical, it is often termed whiteacre. Blackacre is the most celebrated tract of land in the world of law. Blackacre is wholly mythical, yet totally real. It is a concept living in the realm of the mind and doubly valuable since much of the law of property is the same type of reality.
Wow, that's a difficult one. That sounds like The Matrix.
It is. That is a difficult one that you have to just... I thought I'd throw it out there and let people research it and let that sink in a little bit. But it ties into what we're talking about with the definition of the letter A or the word A and issues. And, matrix actually means womb.
Really?
Yep.
That's interesting. Matrix actually means womb. Huh. Man, we could do this all day. Now, see, we have another disparagement of language here. It says Blackacre is, you sent me the definition, Blackacre is wholly mythical, yet totally real. But wait a minute. Something mythical cannot be real. So what does the word real actually mean? That's the next question, because we talk about real estate. We talk about all kinds of real things, but real assets, we have real composition, real presence, we have all these real things. But what the hell does real mean?
Real means created by law.
So not created by God, created by law. So it's still mythical or artificial, but real. Oh, okay. God, like many people out there, I'm having my own little revelation. So real estate is an estate created by law. It's a fictional border or tract of land with a description of the property therein. So it's all just it's that which is created by law. It doesn't actually exist. That's interesting. That's really...
And law literally means to lay down, not standing or able to stand.
You mean the end result, or the ultimate enforcement of law means that you wouldn't be able to stand up against it, to have standing?
Well, once you've bought into their concepts and you've gone that far, then the law gets you to lay down and just submit to that law.
Yeah.
To be able to stand is to resurrect. That's what we all need to do, is to resurrect.
under a higher power, a higher authority.
Under our own authority.
Which is a higher authority.
Yep.
Because it's, again, of God, right? It's acknowledged. It's the acknowledgement of it's acknowledgement that man is not God, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that, Clint. It's it's not of the House of Representatives. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's not attorning your powers. Well, Bo, I want to thank you for joining me today. Again, are you able to come back tomorrow? Because, like I said, I could do this all day. Because this is actually informing me in a great way, as well as my listeners, I hope. So,
I'd love to.
All right, great.
I'd love to. I'll have to take off right about this time tomorrow, but that should work out just perfect.
Sounds good. And we'll go over some of your paperwork that you have. I don't know if that is public stuff that you make public to people or you want to make public, but it's because it is personal. But it's interesting stuff, especially your fee schedule. I found your fee schedule, which you again state is your constitution, your presentment. I found your fee schedule to be refreshing because it literally covers just about every avenue that can possibly happen. And I suppose you hand that off to people, anybody you're going to deal with, right? A police officer, any officer of the government. Before you do any interaction whatsoever, you say, okay, well, you just have to agree to this.
Well, it's referred to in my ordinance of estates, so really it's all right there on the ordinance of estates.
All right. Well, we'll get into that a lot more tomorrow because, again, a lot of people out there, unlike yourself, are not willing to talk about this. A lot of people do not want to bring any attention to themselves. They just want to kind of melt into the system or beneath the system or above it, however you want to look at it, and not share with other people how they were successful in well, as you say, you sued the Congress and won, and that's something that we definitely need to talk about.
Well, I am public, and those documents I gave to you, which are also at chooseyourside.org and the documents link page, all public, and they're to be downloaded or read at your will. So, I have to be public, allowing me to be a sovereign state as per 28 United States Code Chapter 97, basically the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act.
Something else we need to talk about, too. I recommend people go to chooseyourside.org and check out some of the content there. Perhaps might help you for tomorrow's journey into the mind of Bo. Again, thanks for joining me today, sir. Really enjoyed it, actually. More learning for all of us. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for your work, Clint.
All right, man. Take it easy.